Alright. Psycho 2. Psycho 2, 3, and 4 are all gonna be first watches for me. Haven't watched them before. So, I've seen the original Psycho maybe about 3 or 4 times now. It's a classic, right? So, being that, I had no interest to check any of the sequels, because, sequels are inferior, especially when it's, look at the Halloween franchise. There are a few in there. Halloween 4, Halloween 2 is okay, but this is one of those cases where it's over 20 years have passed between sequels, and when you get that kind of thing, a lot of people say, no, you can't do that, they don't do very good. However, I have actually heard some good things about this movie. So when I started, planning out what review series I wanted to do this year, my New Year's resolution, I said I should probably finish the Psycho movies. So I bought this little 3-pack here. It has all 3 of the films, the sequels in it. And, okay, so people who are making collections nowadays, can you just give us 3 separate discs? Stop being lazy. I hate it when you put 2 movies on the same disc. Just give us, come on. Anyway, this film takes place 22 years after the events of the first film. And actually 22 years have actually passed since the first film with this, so they went for it. And the story is that Norman Bates has been released from the asylum, and so he can try to live a normal life. However, it seems that Mother has made her way back into his life, or has she? So the movie confused me at first because I put it in and it was in black and white, and I'm like, wait, what? Is this messed up? Is this the first one again? But no, they show the shower scene at the beginning of this, which is very confusing. And then they cut to him it says Psycho 2, and then he gets released, right? And he's at a court hearing to get released. And Lila is there, the sister. And her name is now Lila Loomis. And I went, wait. Back the truck up here. So, your sister was dating Sam Loomis, and she was horribly murdered by Norman Bates in the guise of Mother. So you steal your sister's boyfriend? How does that work? Oh, my sister was horribly murdered. Do me now on this table. I'm pretty sure that's not how it happened, but I can understand that maybe their shared trauma from the event put them together, but apparently it's in the book too. They wrote a book that Robert Bloch, who wrote the original book, I didn't realize it was based on the book till afterwards. He wrote a sequel book for this, but Universal shut it down. And I read through the synopsis, and actually, it's not a bad idea for a Psycho movie. Maybe one of these days I'll do like a video on it, but or after I'm done with the review of this, I'll talk about it quickly from what I read in there. I don't do a separate video if I remember. Sometimes I forget. But anyway, so yeah, Norman is released, much to the chagrin of Lila Loomis, who thinks he's a psychopath because he murdered her sister and that he deserves to stay his whole life in the institution, but they released him anyway. And they release him to his house, which, yeah, not a good idea. He goes back to his house, he goes to his hotel, where Detective Sipowicz, Dennis Franz, He's running the place, and he's turned it into a place of debauchery. You know, a hooker hotel with drugs and sex and all that stuff. That's not what he wants, so he fires Sipowicz. I don't keep calling him that. But also, Norman has a job at the local diner where he meets a woman named Mary. Now, something caught my eye. I had heard nothing about this other than it was a pretty good sequel, but something caught my ear when she said her name was Mary. What was the last name? Mary Samuels. I'm like, wait, Mary Samuels. Wasn't the name that Marion used Maria Samuels? Wasn't that the name that she wrote in the book? I'm like, wait, that's a little too... My suspicions were correct, though, once they reveal who she really is. But I'm like, Mary Samuels? That's very close to Maria Samuels, or Marie Samuels, which is the name that she used. And I'm like, Mary. Is that going to be a tipping point? Like, he's going to hear her full name and it's going to connect to that? Oh, boy, was I way off. Because my thought was, Marie Samuels or Mary Samuels is similar to Marie Samuels, and he's going to be like, that's the name she put in there. And it's going to start to crack his brain. But I was way off. I should have seen this coming, but I didn't. But anyway, so he defends her, or not defends her, but like, she breaks something, he says he did it, and figures he'd get in less trouble, because she's been working there longer, he hasn't, so... And he invites her to stay at the hotel, and that's when he finds out that Sipowicz is doing, the drugs and the sex and stuff, and he fires him. And then he invites her to stay at the house. I do like this scene, though, when he first arrives at the house, and he's kind of just walking around and stuff, and he doesn't want to go in Mother's room, because, that's where the... Also, he doesn't go in the fruit cellar, either, because of obvious trauma. They do mention in the beginning here that people who have been breaking in, local kids are breaking in to have sex in the cellar. So I was like, okay, we can expect a scene with that at some point, and it does. But so he invites Mary to stay with him. Just this woman he met for the first time. But Norman is a nice guy. We've seen from the first one that he is generally a nice guy, and that Mother was the one that was, But soon, he starts to get strange phone calls, supposedly from Mother. And seeing Mother in the window, he seems... also, the person that got him the job at the diner, her name is Miss Emma Spool. And she's sort of a minor character that you don't think about because she's just there at the beginning. But she comes back, and when she does, you're just like... Really? And I'll explain it, because it's a head scratcher how they explain it, and this whole ending is really confusing to me, but yeah, so she says she's got a girlfriend that's living in town, and she's gonna stay there, but she comes back because she claims that the girlfriend has a boyfriend that moved in, and there's only a one-room apartment, I guess, So we get there's not as much tension building in this one as the original Psycho, but there's a scene where, he's sandwiches and milk, that seems to be his go-to. That's all he ever eats is sandwiches and milk. But, he eats having the sandwich, and she comes in, and she hands him a knife to cut it, and he just kind of looks at it, but he cuts the sandwich, puts it back, and it's just like, okay, is he going to use it? What's he going to do? I will tell you this. I was with the movie until when it gets about 3/4 of the way through, I was like, what are they doing? Because it didn't make sense to me. And then when the twist happens at the end, it really didn't make any sense to me. So, look into it. But, so, Um, yeah, a couple days pass. He does have a doctor, played by Robert Loggia. You may know from Big, a couple other things. Yeah, he's a doctor. He checks on him from time to time. There's one point in the film where Mary goes over to the hotel to grab, because stuff's starting to happen. He's getting the phone calls. He feels like he's starting to lose it, and there's this couple goes down to the cellar to have sex, and they're killed by someone in a black dress and a wig, and we're supposed to be led to believe it's Norman. However, Norman at the time is locked in the attic. They play it real cool though. He's locked in the attic. He comes home and he goes to Mother's room because he shows her Mother's room and it's all kind of everything's put away and everything. But when he goes in there, everything is set up again. And then he gets locked in the attic. And during this, a couple goes down to the cellar to have sex. And the boy gets killed. The guy gets killed. The girl runs away and tells the cops. Mary comes back and finds Norman in the attic with the door unlocked. Like, the door's unlocked. He's thinking he's losing his mind, right? But then the sheriff shows up, and the girl's afraid to come in the house and says that her boyfriend was murdered by Norman dressed as Mother or whatever, by someone in the house, and thinking it's Norman. Okay, so here's my question. At first, when they were breaking it down, I was like, okay, they don't know he's back. Because he's so sure, oh, look, man, they do it all the time. So he doesn't know he's back. But then when the cops come, she says that, they said that the girl said that it was Norman. And I'm like, wait, so they knew he was back and they still... Why? If you knew that the guy who had committed murders before was back, why would you sneak into his cellar to have sex? That doesn't make any sense to me. So he's flipping out after this. Talks with the sheriff. They go down, and Mary says that she's the one that straightened up everything, even though she didn't. But he hadn't been down there since he came back, because Mother, and he feels like he's starting to lose it. The sheriff leaves, and so she goes over to the hotel to get some whiskey, thinking that Sipowicz left some, and that's where we get the first twist. Lila is there, and Lila is there because she and Marie are working together to make Norman go nuts again. And I say Mary. She and Mary are working together to make him go nuts again. And Mary is actually Mary Loomis, her daughter. Dun dun dun. And I went, she's like, Mother. I'm like, did you say Mother? Yeah. I was like, okay, this makes sense. He's hearing things, the phone calls are, okay, sure. But who committed the murder? I don't think Lila would kill. And we know it wasn't Norman. He was locked in the up there. And they try to make you, I'm like, I think the whole door being unlocked is supposed to make you think for a second, like, oh, maybe it wasn't. Maybe he's losing his mind. But I wasn't fooled. I'm like, no, I don't think it was him. We find out who it was, but that's later. So, also, I forgot to mention that Sipowicz was also murdered by someone dressed as Mother. Forgot to mention that. Totally skipped that. I forgot about that. But yeah, Toombs. His name is Toombs in the movie, but I call him Sipowicz because NYPD Blue. Anyway, so eventually Mary gets tired of this, and she grows fond of Norman, so she goes to her mother's hotel and she warns her. She says, leave him alone or you'll be sorry. And the guy at the desk hears her, even though there's a vacuum going and you can't always hear everything, but apparently he does hear it because he shows up at the end. But yeah, Norman starts getting phone calls again, And he starts to say that it's his... He starts to act even weirder. The doctor comes in. And the doctor takes him to his mother's grave. They have the body exhumed. And he says, now you believe that mother didn't do it? He goes, yes. He goes home. And he has a talk with Mary where he says, oh, I know Mrs. Bates isn't doing it. But my real mother is. It's my real mother. I'm like, wait. Huh? He goes, I was adopted. I'm like, wait, where are you getting this from? I don't... Like, how... Huh? My real mother told me. I'm like, okay, but there's only 2 other times when there's one time at first where he picks up the phone and there's no one on the other line because he's talking to someone and then Mary picks up the other line and there's no one there. So they're saying that he's losing his mind again. So they're okay, he's losing his mind and this is all in his head. He's losing it. But then, so this happens again, where he's on the phone, and it's the doctor guy who is talking to him from, because the doctor does eventually show up and he tells Norman everything, because he talked to the sheriff and had the sheriff investigate Mary and find out that she's actually Mary Loomis, and everything comes to a head, and the doctor comes there and he goes to the hotel and he finds out that apparently Lila has been calling from the hotel and leaving those phone calls. At one point, Lila goes down to the basement to grab the costume and she gets murdered by someone dressed as Mother. And then the phone rings and there's no one on the... And it's him on the other line. It's the doctor. But the doctor is telling him that it's him and he's like, yes, Mother. Yes, Mother. No, it's not Mother. It's Dr. whatever his name is. And then I'm like, okay, so he's clearly losing his mind. And he thinks it's his adopted mother. And I'm like, okay, he's clearly lost his mind. He's going off the deep end again. So Mary runs down and grabs the costume. She puts it on. She's like, I'm your mother. Put down the phone. And she grabs the other phone. I'm your mother. Hang up the phone. And then the doctor comes in and sees her dressed as Mother. Thinks that she's going to kill Norman. So he runs up behind her, grabs her. She freaks out and turns around in a fright and accidentally stabs him right in the heart. And he dies. Then Norman sees her dressed as Mother and he's completely lost it. And says he's going to take her to the fruit cellar. And that's when they find her body, or Lila's body. And now Mary thinks that he killed her mother. And so she tries to kill him and the cops come in and shoot her. And I'm like, okay. So they explain everything. Not as big an explanation scene as the first one, but they explain everything. They think that Lila and Mary are the killers, and that because they found Sibowitz's car. They think Lila and Mary are the killers, and Norman is because she was stabbing at Norman, and so he's injured and he's ready to go home. So I'm sitting there, I'm going, okay, so they're telling us that Lila and Mary are the killers. So wait. Was Mary the one who killed the boy downstairs? Wait. No, because she was moving all the things back for an hour. So did Lila kill him? No, Lila was making the phone. Lila was at the hotel. Huh? Why was she so surprised her mother's body? She didn't kill her mother. They say she killed her mother, but she was surprised. She said it was him. What? So then I'm very confused. And at this time, we see Norman eating sandwiches and milk again. And then there's a knock at the door. And it's someone who looks like Mother, but when he opens the door, it's Miss Poole. So then we get the twist. Miss Poole is his birth mother and is actually Norma Bates' sister. And Emma Spool. I said Poole? Spool. Emma Spool is his real mother, and Spool was Norma's maiden name. And she wasn't ready for a kid, so she gave it to Norma, and Norma raised him. Just one question, though. How did he know? There's no way. Like, when she came in, he already knew, and he acted like it was no big surprise that they talked like they've talked before. The thing is, and the biggest thing is, they never, whenever he picks up the phone, we don't hear what's on the other side. And every time it could be someone else other than Lila, Mary picks up the phone and there's no one on the other line. We're led to believe that Norman has lost his mind again. And I was ready to accept that, okay, he lost his mind, he made up the whole adoption thing. But then they confirm it, and it's just a head scratcher to me. It's just like, wait, what? What? Okay, I'm about to have a psychotic break here. Because, what? So then he murders her with a shovel, takes her body upstairs, and she's the new mother now, apparently. Okay. Up until that ending, I was really with it. You know, if they were saying it was Lila, and Mary committing the murders, fine. And I could have accepted maybe it was Norman who snapped and killed Lila. And then Mary, well, then we know that. So, yeah, but I don't know. Or maybe I could have accepted it was Norman the entire time, you know? And they were making, and it worked. Whatever they were doing worked, you know? I don't know. But this twist just sort of, I don't know. It doesn't work. I will say, though, I did enjoy it for the most part. So I'm going to say, when it comes to Psycho 2, it's pretty good. Now, about the book, Psycho 2. It's very similar at the beginning. Norman is let out of the asylum. I don't think it's 22 years. Maybe it is. But he's let out of the asylum and he's free to go, and his doctor lets him, go. But he doesn't go back to the hotel. Never mind. I'm doing the movie again. He's not released. He escapes. I forgot. It's 2 years later. He's not released from the asylum. He escapes dressed as a nun. And he kills another nun and puts it in a van, and he drives away, right? And I didn't read the whole thing. I read the beginning and the end. So he... but I know the gist of it. So he kills the nun, and he's going to kill this other criminal and fake his death. And so the cops eventually find the van set on fire with the dead nun and another corpse, which we're led to believe is Norman, right? Then the doctor is, I think, the main character, trying to track there are killings happening. He's trying to figure out what's going on. There's another character. He believes it's when they find out that the burnt victim is actually Norman Bates. They think it's this other killer, but it turns out it's the doctor. And when Norman tried to kill the other criminal, the criminal killed Norman, set him on fire with the nun, because he thought it was just another nun. And the guy actually ended up confessing to the police what he had done because he felt so bad about it, I guess, because he thought it was a nun. So, yeah, kind of a twist. So Norman Bates is dead in this one, in the book, and it was his doctor committing the murders. The doctor, I guess, gained his multiple personality. I don't know how that works because it's such a personal multiple personality with Mother. Then again, I haven't read the first book, so maybe a different multiple personality, but it's interesting. And I guess the third book is about someone who buys the house I don't know. But I almost would have wanted to see that Psycho 2 as a movie, because that would be kind of interesting twist, you know. Then again, I can see why Universal passed on it, because they're like, oh, we want Norman to be the, you know, the guy. We don't want to kill off Norman Bates within the first 5 minutes of the movie. I get that. You don't want to kill off Norman Bates. He might be the main character, especially if you're bringing Anthony Perkins back after 22 years. Yeah, you're not going to want to do that. But that is very interesting, you know, thing to do. But, yeah, like I said, it's pretty good. So what are your thoughts on Psycho 2? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I've been Scotty. I'll see you in the next one.